Ever wondered how businesses are classified by size? Well, it's one of the most striking ways businesses differ. Think about it. There are businesses as small as a single person running a web design firm or a craft shop employing just a handful of people. On the other side, we have behemoths like Microsoft and Samsung, multinational corporations employing thousands across the globe. What's fascinating is that small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, actually constitute over 90% of businesses in most countries. Quite a contrast, isn't it? From a one-person show to multinational corporations, the business world is truly diverse. Yet this brings us to an intriguing question. How do we measure the size of a business? Is it by the number of employees, the annual turnover, or something else? That's what we're going to explore. Measuring business size is not as straightforward as it may seem. You might think, hey, why not just look at how much money a company makes? Well, that's one way to do it, but it has its limitations. Notably, it assumes that every business is out to make a profit, which isn't always the case. Take non-profit organizations, for example. They might have a significant number of employees and a considerable annual turnover, but their goal isn't necessarily to make a profit. Instead, they aim to reinvest their earnings back into their mission, whether that's providing essential services, conducting research, or promoting arts and culture. Then you might suggest, what about the stock market value? While that's another valid measure, it assumes that a company's shares are publicly traded. However, not all businesses are listed on the stock market. In fact, many small and medium-sized enterprises, which make up over 90% of businesses in most countries, are privately owned. So, what measures can we use that apply to nearly all businesses, regardless of their profit motive or whether they're publicly traded? Well, two universally applicable measurements are the number of employees and annual turnover. The number of employees is a straightforward metric. It simply counts how many people work for the business. Annual turnover, on the other hand, is the total value of sales made over a year. It gives us an idea of how much business a company does in a year, irrespective of profit. But here's the catch. These two measurements aren't always in sync. There can be businesses with very few employees that nonetheless have a large annual turnover. Consider a one-person business trading shares on the stock market. If they are successful, they could generate a substantial turnover in a year, despite being a one-person operation. So, when you're measuring business size, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. You need to consider various factors and measurements, and even then, you might find some surprising discrepancies. These measurements, however, aren't always in sync. Let's dive deeper into this. The European Commission has set clear definitions for business sizes. It's a system that helps us understand the landscape of the business world better. And it's based on two key factors: the number of employees and the annual turnover. Let's start with large enterprises. These are the heavyweights of the business world. They employ 250 people or more and boast an annual turnover of more than 50 million euros. Next, we have medium-sized enterprises. These businesses may not be as grand in scope as large enterprises, but they still pack a punch. Medium-sized enterprises employ fewer than 250 people, but they still manage an annual turnover of no more than 50 million euros. Now, let's scale down a bit more to small enterprises. These businesses might be smaller in size, but they are mighty in their influence. They employ fewer than 50 people and have an annual turnover of no more than 10 million euros. And finally, we have micro-enterprises. These are the smallest of the small, often started by passionate entrepreneurs looking to make their mark. Micro-enterprises employ fewer than 10 people and have an annual turnover of no more than 2 million euros. But there's one more classification we need to discuss, and that's SMEs, or small and medium-sized enterprises. This category is a bit broader, capturing all businesses with fewer than 250 employees. This means that both small and medium-sized enterprises fall under this umbrella. This classification system is more than just a way to categorize businesses. It provides a framework for understanding the scale and impact of different enterprises. It helps us see that a business doesn't need to be a multinational corporation to be successful. In fact, small and medium-sized enterprises make significant contributions to economies worldwide. They are often the backbone of local communities, providing jobs and services, and often driving innovation. So, whether it's a micro-enterprise run by a passionate entrepreneur, a small business making waves in its local community, a medium-sized enterprise reaching new heights, or a large corporation operating on a global scale, each has its place in the business ecosystem, and each contributes to the economy in its own unique way. Remember, size doesn't always dictate success in business. It's about the value a business provides, the impact it makes, and the difference it brings to its customers and the wider community. And that's the beauty of the business world. It's diverse, dynamic, and constantly evolving, with businesses of all sizes playing pivotal roles. Now that we know how businesses are classified by size, let's talk about why it matters. Because understanding the size of a business can give us insight into its potential impact, its challenges, and its opportunities. And that's a powerful tool. Whether you're a business owner, an investor, a customer, or simply someone interested in the business world. Why should we bother about the size of a business, you may ask? Well, the answer lies in the fact that the size of a business plays a vital role in defining its strategies, competitiveness, and compliance with regulations. Let's start with business strategy. The size of a business influences its strategic approach. For instance, a small business may focus on niche markets, offering unique products or personalized services. On the other hand, large businesses, with their vast resources and capabilities, can cater to a broader market, offering a wide range of products or services. Next, let's consider market competition. The size of a business can determine its competitive edge. Large businesses often have the advantage of economies of scale, which enables them to produce goods or services at a lower cost per unit than their smaller counterparts. This can result in lower prices for consumers and a competitive advantage for the business. Small businesses, however, can compete by differentiating their products or services, focusing on quality, or leveraging their local market knowledge. Lastly, regulatory compliance is also influenced by business size. Different regulations apply to businesses of different sizes. For example, small and medium-sized enterprises may be subject to different tax laws and regulations than large corporations. Understanding these regulations is crucial for businesses to ensure they remain compliant and avoid penalties. But the importance of business size classification extends beyond the business itself. It's also crucial for entrepreneurs, investors, and even customers. Entrepreneurs need to understand the implications of their business's size to make informed decisions and develop growth strategies. Investors use business size classification to evaluate investment opportunities, as the size of a business can influence its risk and return profile. And customers? Well, some customers prefer doing business with small local firms, while others prefer large established corporations. So, you see, the size of a business is more than just a number. It's a critical factor that influences a business's strategic approach, competitiveness, and regulatory compliance. Understanding business size classification is crucial for entrepreneurs, investors, and even customers. So, we've covered a lot about business size classifications. Our journey started with an introduction to the spectrum of business sizes, from the one-person ventures and micro-businesses, all the way to the multinational corporations that operate across the globe. Remember, small and medium-sized enterprises constitute over 90% of the business population in most countries, even if they don't employ the same percentage of workforce or make up the same share of business deals. We then moved on to the tricky part. How do we measure the size of a business? There are several yardsticks, but not all of them fit every business. Profit-based measurement, for instance, only applies to for-profit enterprises. Stock market value is another metric, but it's only valid for businesses with publicly traded shares. However, Two measures prove to be almost universally applicable: number of employees and annual turnover. But don't forget, these two don't always go hand in hand. A business might have a small workforce yet generate a large annual turnover. Like a successful stock trader, the European Commission combines these two measures to define business sizes. Large enterprises have 250 or more employees and an annual turnover exceeding 50 million euros. Medium-sized enterprises employ fewer than 250 people and have an annual turnover not exceeding 50 million euros. Small enterprises have fewer than 50 employees and an annual turnover less than 10 million euros. Micro-enterprises, the smallest of all, employ fewer than 10 people and have an annual turnover less than 2 million euros. Businesses with fewer than 250 employees are often collectively referred to as small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. In conclusion, the size of a business is not just about its physical presence or brand recognition. It's a multifaceted concept encompassing number of employees, annual turnover, and more. It's a key criterion that impacts how we classify businesses. Next time you think about businesses, remember that size does matter, at least in how we classify them.